Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dylan's Daily Show. So tomorrow, Donald Trump is supposed to make his decision regarding the Iran nuke deal. Now, this is something that he promised he was going to get rid of, and I really hope he does. This thing is terrible for the United States, it's terrible for our allies, and it's terrible for his reputation. Because if he goes through with this thing, that will affect how the world looks at him. I mean, look at President Obama. He just shoved this thing through, and nobody takes it seriously. Not even Iran. And we're going to get to that, and I have a little presentation set up talking about why it's so bad. But nobody's going to take this thing seriously. Donald Trump has done a very effective job with his foreign policy. He's come off as strong. It's the unpredictability of him that makes him so good when it comes to foreign policy. That's why North Korea has come to the table. The Korean War ended. They're thinking about nominating for a Nobel Peace Prize, although I hope he turns it down. But this is huge. So I hope he doesn't keep this deal because it will ruin that entire reputation. But let's get into the presentation here that I've set up about the Iran nuke deal and why it's so important to scrap it. And then I'm going to get into some even more interesting information. I'm going to try to keep this thing as brief as I possibly can. Now I'm going to be referring to two things in this video. The JCPOA, which is a Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And I'll be referring to that as the JCPOA. And then we've got the NPT, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which I will refer to as NPT. Now, the Obama administration asserts that the JCPOA will prevent Iran from building a nuclear weapon for 15 years. All right? But there are loopholes, which have been found, obviously, if I'm talking to you about right now. Now, there is an interpretation of the NPT which states that in which states party to the treaty are entitled to the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, but not to enrichment and reprocessing technologies. But that can provide a clear route to nuclear nuclear weapons. Now, because of that loophole, we're basically announcing to the world that it's fine for Iran to do that. And so a lot of people are worried about this. Now, obviously, you've got your John Kerry out there pushing for it. You got your Macron, Merkel, John Kerry behind this. I already said that he's behind the scenes working toward it because it's his baby. But let's talk about that interpretation really quick. Because you may make the argument that, well, it's fine. Allow Iran to, chase after, seek alternative energy. What's the worst that could happen? Well, first of all, they have no need for it. They have no need for nuclear power. No peaceful need for it. They're sitting on a sea of oil, which would benefit them highly because, like I reported a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. No, I think it was 2 weeks ago. The price of oil is reaching $70 a barrel soon. So they've got all this oil, they've got all this energy, they can make a big profit on it, but for some reason they don't, that they want to go pursue nuclear energy. Now, let's assume that they do need it, all right? There's this thing called an International Nuclear Fuel Bank, which, if it's used, would save the effort and expense of enrichment, and it would also remove all suspicion about the intent of Iran's nuclear program. So if they were to agree to this International Nuclear Fuel Bank, then it would clear their name. They're not doing anything stupid. We know that because of the International Nuclear Fuel Bank, and we can trust them. But instead, they don't like that idea. They refuse to support such a concept. So, of course, they want their own, which is a problem. I mean, think about that. Iran isn't agreeing to that. Now, what does that make you think? Now, you might say, oh, Dylan, you should just trust Iran. Just trust them. Well, why should I trust them? Because they want to, they don't want everybody up in their business. They want to have some sort of independence, and they don't want everybody up in their business. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but you lose that privilege when you sponsor terrorists, when you threaten the United States, which the leaders have done, and you threaten our allies. You lose that privilege. Now, you can gain that back by having this International Nuclear Fuel Bank showing that you have no intention of developing nuclear weapons, but they don't want to do that. Which leads me to believe that they are developing nuclear weapons. Also, we won't know, but that was Iran's energy situation, but we will have no idea if they develop it or not. We'll have no idea. Because number one, American inspectors are not even permitted inside Iran's area, inside Iran's facilities, nuclear facilities, thanks to the JCPOA, so thank you, Obama. Some citizens from states that do not have diplomatic relations with Iran are not allowed to join the IAEA inspection teams in Iran. But they're not letting the U.S. in. So not only are they having this program in secret because of that loophole, but also They are not allowing the United States to even come in and inspect. So you'd think that they would at least allow us to inspect. No. It's almost like they're doing it in front of us and laughing, like, ha 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 ha, you guys can't catch us. You know, it's kind of like a condescending thing. Like, why would we ever do that? Also, India and Pakistan conducted nuclear tests in 1998. Guess what? We failed to catch it. The U.S. Intelligence Committee failed to catch it. Now, if Iran does the same thing, can we trust that we'll catch it this time? Maybe not. Now, this is a big one. It's not a treaty, okay? Now, there are two types of international agreements, or the two main types. There are some that enter into force for the United States after 2/3 of the Senate provides advice and consent. Those are known as treaties. Then there's another type of international agreement that enter into force for the United States without the advice and consent of the Senate. Those are executive agreements. Now, the Iran nuke deal is an executive agreement. Obama did not want it to be a treaty because he knew it would not pass in the Senate. So, and no U.S. president, by the way, has ever claimed the authority to negotiate such highly controversial arm control or non-proliferation agreements unilaterally as an executive agreement. He's the first one to do it. So this thing is not a treaty. Now, what does it mean if it's not a treaty? It means it's not legally binding, and therefore it stands as a mere political commitment. It's just a political commitment. Now, how secure do you feel knowing that a state sponsor of terrorism is being held back from its nuclear program by a mere political commitment? Not that secure, right? Not at all. Now let's talk about the preamble, because this is important as well. A lot of people will argue that defend the Iran nuke deal. They'll say, well, the preamble reads, quote, Iran reaffirms that under no circumstances will Iran ever seek, develop, or acquire any nuclear weapons. All right, well, you know, if that's such a great point, we should just end here. Trump should keep the Iran nuke deal and we should move on. No, of course not, right? That's stupid. International agreements typically have two major components, all right? The preamble and the operative clauses. Operative text is legally binding. In non-legally binding agreements, the operative text still constitutes the content of parties, and they're still agreeing to it. So it's basically still, even in the non-political agreement, it's still basically legally binding. Or it's politically binding, I should say, in the political agreement. But text in the preamble is not legally binding and often represents ideas or concepts that are merely aspirational or that the parties were unable to agree to. Such language commits no party to do or refrain from doing anything. So the text in the preamble are essentially saying, you know, this is what we wish we could have. Maybe we didn't agree to this, which of course they didn't agree to it. That's why it's in the preamble, and we know they didn't agree to it. But they didn't agree to it, but we wish we could have it down the road, or we'll just put it there to make people feel more comfortable about the deal. So thank you to the preamble for making people feel comfortable, but it doesn't help the situation at all. Also, they're not going to take it seriously. They're not going to take this thing seriously at all. Why would they? They have no reason to. First of all, it's not even a treaty. Secondly, Trump can scrap it. They know this. They knew when Obama wrote it that the next president could just take office, or not when Obama wrote it, but when Obama, you know, when it went into John Kerry and everybody over there negotiating this thing, Obama didn't write the thing. I was just, you know, it's Obama's baby, it's John Kerry's baby. But when they got this thing through as a political agreement, they knew that the next president could just change it. All right, now, so there's no motivation for them to take it seriously. And there's NPT Article X, which permits a state party to withdraw from the treaty if extraordinary events, quote, if extraordinary events related to the subject matter of the treaty have jeopardized the supreme interests of its country. Now, that's just a subjective requirement that they need to provide. They have to give a rationale for their requirements. There's sort of a 90-day notice period, but that's just subjective, and it'll happen. So Iran essentially can just come through and say, hey, you know what? We've changed our mind on this thing. This is why. They can provide some BS reason. They can get out of it. Just as easily as we can get out of it because it's not a treaty. So they have no reason to take this thing seriously. And Iran could very well back out. So we're trusting Iran based on on an agreement that has no, I mean, it's not binding in any way, shape, or form. It's a political agreement. It's just Obama could look good. He could pass this thing, leave the presidency, and have that be his baby. But either way, it's going to hurt him. If we keep it and it backfires, it's going to hurt him. If we don't keep it and it backfires, it's going to hurt him as well. But Trump needs to get in there. We need a good deal if we're going to have a deal with Iran, we need a good deal that's going to benefit the United States. We're not going to get that out of them unless we have tough talk and unless we have tough foreign policy. If Iran thinks we're weak on foreign policy, they'll walk all over us like they did with Obama. And we don't want that. That's what I'm saying. It's so important for Trump to do what he did with North Korea and to do what he's done around the world. It doesn't matter that Macron wants to keep it. It doesn't matter that Merkel wants to keep it. It's America first, right? So don't listen to them. It's about us. We don't want to have to go to war. If Iran attacks Israel, Israel's going to go to war. That would pull us into it. So I think it's important. We do want to be America first. But we also want to make sure that we stay out of conflicts, and part of that is preventing them from even starting. Now, Netanyahu had a presentation the other day, 55,000 pages of documents, 183 CDs. He said that Iran wants to design, produce, and test 5 warheads with 10 kiloton of TNT yield for integration on missiles. He says that after the deal was signed in 2015, Iran moved its nuclear weapons files to a secret location in Tehran, which we wouldn't know about, but he found out about. He claims that they lied about never having a secret nuclear weapons program and also continued to expand that program after the deal. And if this is true, what he's saying in that presentation he reported last Monday, this is big stuff. Now, Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, who just got confirmed by the Senate, he visited Israel on Sunday and said, this is last Sunday, and said, we will cancel the deal if it's not fixed. So that was where they stood last Sunday. I don't know what Donald Trump is going to do tomorrow, but I don't know what they mean by this is not fixed either. I would anticipate that Trump wants to make a better deal. He seems like a deal-based guy. I think he wants to make a deal. But we'll see what happens. And if we do make a deal, it has to be a treaty. It can't be these political agreements because the next president that comes in could just scrap it just like Trump did with the Iran nuke deal. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on the Iran nuke deal. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like and share, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more. I will catch up with you guys next time. Bye-bye.